Hi. We'll go ahead and get started.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Clevenger, and I am an admission counselor here at Wofford. I am excited to meet you guys. As you can see, I have a slide pulled up with some information that we're going to go over, but if you all have any questions, please feel free to ask me too. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, or at the end, I'll leave some space for questions. We are a small private liberal arts college in Spartanburg, South Carolina, so not too far from you all. Small being we're about 1,760 students. What that really looks like for you guys in the classroom is our average class size is 17 with a cap of 25. So you'll never be in a class larger than 25, but most of your classes will be an average of 17 to 18 students. So that's really kind of what it means inside the classroom. With that, we have a student to faculty ratio of 11:1. This just means your professors will get to know you on a first name basis. They'll get to know you well, where you're from, what you're studying, and be really invested in your learning. Because our classes are smaller, a lot of them are discussion based, and so you can interact with your professors, be able to take kind of charge of your education, ask questions, and interact inside that classroom. A little bit about what our student population looks like at Wofford. We have students from 37 states and 22 countries. We have 21 different faith perspectives present on campus. We're about 50-50 female to male, and about 50-50 in-state versus out-of-state. So kind of a good mix of students. You definitely will have some in-state students coming along, but you'll also have the ability to interact and meet out-of-state students and get some really cool diversity inside your classroom. 20% of our students are non-white or international students. 16% are Pell eligible, so receiving Pell grants. And 15% of our students are first generation college students. So again, a good mix inside of your classroom with, giving you that diversity and conversation and the students that you're going to interact with. A little bit about kind of admission criteria and what it kind of takes, looks for our average student coming into Wofford. We do not have minimums, so there's no minimum cutoff for GPA, an ACT or SAT score, but we do have some averages. So first, I want to mention we are test optional, so it's completely up to you if you want to submit a test score for both admission and merit scholarships, so you can still qualify for merit scholarships without a test score. It's up to you if you would like to submit one. Our average SAT is about 1140 to 1310, and then ACT about a 24 to 30. So about 50% of our students are in that range. My best piece of advice, if you fall in these ranges as you're taking these tests, I would suggest to submit your score on your application, because it can positively benefit your application for both admission and merit scholarships. If you're below this range, you can absolutely choose to be test optional. If you feel like that score represents who you are and you still want to submit it, absolutely you can. A score cannot negatively impact your application. It can only help it. So it's completely up to you if you'd like to submit that score. Our average high school GPA, about a 3.7 recalculated GPA. So what we do is when you apply to Wofford, we recalculate what we call a Wofford GPA. We use your school's grading scale, so whatever Rock Hill or Fort Mill uses as an A, a B, a C, we use that, but we put everything on a 4.0 scale except for an AP or an IB course. Those go on a 5-point scale, but we don't weight dual enrollment or honors when we do this recalculated GPA. So that's where that 3.7 comes from, is from a recalculated GPA. At Wofford, we have 67 programs and majors that you can choose from. We are liberal arts. If you're not familiar with what this means, my favorite way to say it is we want you to be an expert in your field or major, but then also have a really well-rounded knowledge base of a bunch of different things. So you can say, yes, I studied psychology and that's what I'm an expert in, but I also took courses across different disciplines and know critical thinking skills. I took lab sciences and have a little bit of a chemistry background or whatever that is, you have all of these other things, to not sound too cheesy, in your toolbox as well. So our general education requirements are just a little more involved than maybe at a school that's a non-liberal arts school. Something that's unique to Wofford, you'll see on this slide in the middle, is called Interim. This is an independent term that you'll take every single year at Wofford. It's in January, but it's kind of separate from your other 2 semesters. What you'll do is you'll choose how you want to spend interim. You will take one each year, so you'll have 4 that you'll need to graduate, but you can choose how to spend this month of January. You can come back to campus after the holidays, have some time to reconnect with your friends. You take 1 course, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, and really get to kind of just have some downtime as well. You're only in class for 3 hours, so there's a lot of free time. You can hang out with your friends, reconnect, and kind of get ready for that spring semester that'll start in February. These on-campus classes are not going to be your typical calculus or English class. It's hopefully something fun, something that you don't have a chance to take at a different time. So some examples we have are maybe a fly fishing interim, a cooking interim, knitting and quilting if you've ever wanted to learn how to do those, a dance interim where you can learn the South Carolina swing and shag. We have one called The Legend of Bigfoot, where you read ghost stories and then go ghost hunting in Charleston. So a lot of fun options here. It's supposed to be kind of an experience that you're not going to get at a different time, and it's supposed to be fun and hopefully teach you something either new or something that you've been interested in pursuing. So that's on-campus interim. You can also go abroad, so you can travel during this term. It's a great way if you think that you want to go abroad for a full semester later on, and you kind of just want to see if abroad is something that you're interested in. A group of students go with 1 or 2 professors, so about 10 to 15 students go. The professors organize it, they schedule everything, so there's little responsibility in scheduling on your part. You kind of just show up and go for the month of January. These do cycle in and out, but some common ones we have that have stuck around are an art tour through Europe. It's kind of backpack style, how we all think we may want to experience Europe for the first time. One called Old Asia versus New Asia, where you split your time between Vietnam and Cambodia, and you compare and contrast the 2. The most popular one every year that we always have to bring back because it's in such demand is a marine biology interim. You don't have to be a certain major for any interim. You could be a psychology major and do a biology interim. But this one, you get scuba certified here in Spartanburg, and then you spend the rest of the time scuba diving in the Caribbean with a marine biology lab. So as you can guess, that one's definitely the most popular. They go by seniority, so if you don't get one your freshman, sophomore year, you should be able to get it junior, senior year. A lot of really cool options here. We also have scholarships and grants available. These trips are an additional cost to your overall tuition, but we have a lot of scholarships and grants available that many students are able to get the full cost covered. Then you can also use this time for internships or observation hours. So if there's some experience that you need for either graduate school after Wofford or going into the career field, you can dedicate this full month to doing that. So you can move back to Spartanburg, have an internship in the area, still get that time to reconnect with your friends, and downtime before February, the spring semester starts. Or you can stay in your area, in either the Fort Mill or Rock Hill area if you've already made connections. You can do an internship for a month there and then just move back in February. We also send students across the United States as well as abroad for this time. So a lot of really great opportunities to get some cool internship experience in. You're dedicating the full month to these hours, so you're not going to have to juggle a class schedule or anything else. A full month you can dedicate to just getting an internship or observation hours in. The last way you can do interim, as you can see on the slide, is an independent study. So this is a great option if there's something that you really want to do that we don't currently offer. Maybe it's joining a professor this month on a research project that they're currently doing, or you want to do your own type of research project. You can do that for a month. There's also students that do research at other colleges or universities during this term, or if there's just an experience that you really want that we don't currently offer. You pitch it to a faculty member. We just have to see that you're going to be learning something during this month, and then they'll sponsor you to be able to have an independent study that fits your needs. A lot of really cool options there. A lot of students will say interim's their favorite part about Wofford. So it's a really cool term that you'll get to do every year, and you can spend it however you want it based on these 4 options. You'll see our top majors listed there. Pre-med is just kind of a national trend right now. So kind of according to that, biology has been our most popular major. But under that, psychology, finance, accounting, our business department is very popular. So that's a great option as well. But also English and government in there. Being liberal arts, our students kind of study anything. So they're kind of spread out across campus. It's also a really great option to say you do want to be pre-med, but you want to study something else for 4 years because you're going to be studying medicine for many years after Wofford. You could be an English major and also on a pre-med track. We have students that do this. They choose something that they're interested in, but they're put on that pre-med track to making sure that they're also taking all of those requirements for medical school. So a lot of different options. You can kind of create a curriculum that works best for you. We are Division I in athletics. You'll see that here. So whether you're interested in coming to Wofford as an athlete, you can be a Division I athlete. It also just creates a really cool environment on campus. So we're a small school in the classroom. So you get that personalized learning inside of the classroom, but then kind of the big school spirit on the weekends around our athletic events. So it's Terrier Pride is big here on campus. And it just kind of creates that really cool environment of the small school with the big sports and athletics. The last thing I'm going to talk about are application deadlines. So as you guys are kind of thinking about applying, we are Common App exclusive. So the Common application is the only way to apply to Wofford. You just select that you want to send your application to us. And then we have 3 different application rounds. The first one is called early decision. This may be a buzzword that you're hearing. This is a binding round, and it's saying Wofford's my #1 choice, and I'm going to sign a contract that says if I'm admitted, I'm going to come to Wofford and make my decision early on. You don't get to see your financial aid package first. We do admit 90% in this round, so it's a high admission rate, but that binding piece is tied to it. So I always say, if you want to have the ability to make your choice, weigh your options, look at other schools. The next round, early action, is the one that I would suggest. We admit 60%. You get your application in by November 15th. So before the holidays, you can kind of relax, but you'll have time when you get your admission decision back to weigh your options, see how we compare with other schools, and have until May 1st to make your decision. So if you remember anything, I would just kind of remember early action's a great round to consider. Our last round is regular decision. I discourage this one as much as I can. We're a small school. By the time the first 2 rounds pass, we just don't have many spots to fill when that January round comes around. So we admit about 25% or less in this round, depending on the year. So it becomes our tougher round for admission. So I would recommend early action to most of our students, unless you're comfortable making that binding piece for early decision. But again, early action is a great round. And you will be considered for merit scholarships when you submit your application. So there's no separate scholarship application for merit scholarships. As soon as you hit submit on the Common App, we will consider you for those. So I know I just gave a lot of information very quickly. If you all have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those at this time.
Summer and Hayden, what grade are you?
I'm in 9th.
You're ninth?
I'm in 9th grade too.
Great. That is awesome. It's very important to start this now, because kind of in 10th grade, you want to start making a college list just to be able to investigate those colleges more. So that's great that you're doing this now. Now, I know a lot of those terms are probably going to be new for you. And some things may change. Like right now, she talked about test optional. And basically what that means is, I'm sorry, Katie. Test optional is basically, where you don't have to have an SAT or ACT score in order for them to admit you. Now, when you get to applying for senior year, that may no longer be. You might have to have your SAT and ACT. And we do have state scholarships, and they do still require your SAT and ACT as well. So, but I am so glad you are on here. This is great to start learning all these things right now. Now, I know our lovely Aiden is on here too, Miss Katie, and he is a senior. Is it too late for him to apply?
It is not. So you can absolutely still complete an application. You will be put in that last round regular decision that I just talked about. So admission is a little tougher. It's definitely our most competitive round because it is a little later, but you're more than welcome to submit an application if you're still interested in Wofford, and we will review it and offer a decision pretty quickly since we're getting closer to May 1st.
Okay. Aiden, did you hear that?
I sure did.
Okay.
And I do want to point out, you definitely talked about being test optional, which is something good to know. We actually have been test optional since 2015, and we plan to stay this way. But that was a great point, though, that some schools, they've been test optional for COVID and may switch back. We do plan on staying test optional for the long run. It's a decision we made way before COVID, and something that I don't foresee us ever changing. We've seen a lot of success with it. So definitely a great point to mention.
Okay. That's a good question. How much does it cost to get in? And that's from Summer.
Got you. That is a great question. So being private, our full cost of tuition may be higher. So what we do is we give an all-inclusive price, especially with you all not being from Spartanburg. You'll probably live on campus. So this all-inclusive price is tuition, room and board, and a meal plan. It's about $63,000. So again, we know that that's higher. We are a private institution, but you will be considered for merit scholarships, and we do our best to cut into that. We don't expect students to pay $63,000 out of pocket. So we offer financial aid, need-based scholarships, and grants. And then by filling out the FAFSA, which you'll definitely learn more about going into your junior year, you'll be able to bring in any state scholarships, either a Life or Palmetto Fellows, or anything that you can bring in. We take all outside scholarships. So we'll help you build a financial aid package that hopefully cuts into that cost as much as possible. But the all-inclusive price of living on campus, meal plan, and tuition is about $63,000.
Yeah, one thing to note too is is sometimes if you do qualify for financial aid, sometimes you could go to a private school cheaper than you can go to a state school, depending upon the financial aid, because usually private schools have a lot more aid to give. So yeah, I always tell students, don't outrule the private schools just because you see that big price tag.
Absolutely. And also if you are looking at a private school versus a public school, typically private schools do what I just did, which give you an all-inclusive price. Sometimes public schools will kind of give you individual, they'll just give you the tuition costs. And so it's always important to make sure when you're going through the admission process that you're asking, how much is housing? Am I required to have a meal plan my first year? How much is that? And kind of gather your information of what is that total price of attendance? Because sometimes there can be hidden fees and costs in there that you want to make sure that you're knowing. I see another great question. Is there a similar program to sports science? So being liberal arts, our majors may seem a little more broad, but you do have the ability to narrow them down. Sports science, I'm assuming maybe kind of like an exercise science. We do have an option for that. So for example, we have a pre-PT or OT physical therapy or occupational therapy track that are typically most popular with a sports science or exercise science degree. You choose your major. The most common for this is biology. It meets a lot of the same requirements that a sports science program would need. And then you get put on a pre-health track, so that pre-physical therapy or occupational therapy track. So you're going to be taking the courses required for a graduate program, but your major can be maybe a biology major. If you're looking for something specifically sports science and not really looking to go into a program like physical therapy or occupational therapy, we do not have that, but we do have the ability to put you on a track if there's a specific career that you're going into after. Summer, I'm not quite sure about your question. Is it for every year or all 4 years that you want to take classes? I'm not sure if you're thinking about tuition or what the context is. If you don't mind to clarify, I'm happy to answer that one.
I'm just wondering about the the tuition.
Tuition, yeah. So that's for 1 full year. And so every year that it'll be the same price. So that $63,000 is for 1 full year on campus. Great question. And then I see, are there single dorm rooms? Most of our dorms are in pairs, so you have a roommate, but you do absolutely have the ability, if you'd like to live by yourself, you can select a single dorm. So those are options available. The standard is having a roommate, but you can absolutely request a single room any year here.
Do you have to pay more for that?
You would. So it would be an additional cost on housing. I'm not sure what that bump in cost would be, but it would be a little bit of an additional cost to reserve a single room. Is it more of a spread out campus or more condensed? I'd say we're kind of in the middle. We're not as large as maybe a state university where it's kind of spread out across a downtown or city blocks, but we are pretty spread out. Since we are Division I in athletics, we have pretty, nice state-of-the-art facilities, which has allowed our campus to expand. And so all of those are on campus, making us bigger. And then also, most of our students live on campus all 4 years. So we need plenty of room to have these dorms and be able to house our students all 4 years. And so that helps us spread across campus as well. We're right next to downtown Spartanburg, but you definitely, when you're here, you feel like you're kind of in your own little world. You have to drive into Wofford to really see the campus open up. But probably from end to end, about a 15-minute walk will get you from one end of campus to the other. Great questions.
Yeah, you guys have some good questions. A couple other things too, when you're looking at colleges, you might want to ask also is, is it required to stay on campus your freshman year? Because some colleges automatically make you stay on campus your freshman year. So Katie, is that a requirement?
It is not at Wofford. So you could choose to live off campus. Most of our students do. Again, I might have already mentioned we're about 94% residential. So most live on campus all 4 years, but you're not required to. So that's an option that you can make. Another good question as you're kind of navigating schools is if you can bring a car. Some schools don't allow you to bring a car your freshman year. And so your parents would just kind of drop you off. At Wofford, you can bring a car and you can have it here all 4 years. So absolutely, those are great questions to be thinking about.
Anyone have any more questions? And Hayden and Summer, you can always also come see me if you like, and we can kind of talk some more about college and your majors and things like that as well. But this is great that you're participating in this to know what's out there.
Absolutely. And I guess my best piece of advice as you're kind of starting this whole process, don't focus on the little things at first. I think some big things to kind of narrow down over the next couple of years are just deciding if you like a big school or a small school. There's no right or wrong, but those are good ones to kind of narrow down right now. And then as you get junior, senior year, being able to, I really like small schools. Let's look at my options there. And then also touring campuses. You guys are it's not too early to start doing that. If you're in an area or you're driving to the beach or driving on a trip and there's a campus nearby, drive through it or see if they have tours available and just see if you like them or not. And then you can kind of experiment, drive through a state school campus, drive through a private school, and just kind of see the feeling and kind of start making those decisions early on. So you have a little more guidance as you're narrowing them down later on.
Yeah, I highly recommend that too. And also with private schools, it's a lot of times very important to go visit a school or let them know that you are interested, because that is sometimes part of their admission process is demonstrating your interest. The bigger schools, a lot of times they don't log that type of thing because they have so many applicants. the smaller schools usually do. Katie, is that do you look at that?
We do. So that's a great buzzword to kind of remember for, especially for smaller schools, is demonstrated interest. The better we can get to know you. I have students that I started, working with the beginning of their sophomore, junior years that I've gotten to follow and interact with all the way through applying as seniors. And it just, the more we get to know about you, the better. It's things that I can put in my recommendations for an admission decision, or we can see that you are really interested in Wofford and you really want to be here. And that's something that we can take into consideration when making decisions. So demonstrated interest is a big piece for us. We'll track, if you come to campus for a tour, we track that. Any interactions that you have with us, those are all things that we'll track along the way to see how high your interest is.
All right. Do you guys have any more questions? No? All right, I'm gonna draw a name. I like this part. For a Wofford, for whatever Miss Katie is going to be sending me, I will get to you. All right, let's see. I have little sticky notes here. Can you see that? All right, let's see. Oh, Miss Summer. All right, Summer, you won the Wofford prize, okay? So when I get it, I will make sure to call for you and get that prize to you, okay? And now Hayden and Aiden, I'm still going to be pulling a name for Rock Hill High School prize at the end of the day too. So I'll also notify you on Canvas if you are not on campus, okay? So you
Yep.
still have
I'm at
opportunity
home
to
too.
earn a prize.